In 3, 2, 1.
This is Doug Plank, former Chicago Bear. You're listening to Brags in the Stands.
Green Bay sucks! 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 Let's go! Bears win.
Packer week. Green Bay sucks. Let's go.
With the Bears, they started this new tradition last year where they celebrate their wins the correct way.
Bottle and Sylvie, ESPN 1000, don't miss it.
I know what you mean.
It's like their own Philly.
Okay. Okay, I think what it is.
We shouldn't be showing this. Am I crazy?
What a great sign that is. What if I told you 17 minutes of rain would wash away 108 years of drought?
Do you see this team growing into the team that you were in 2005?
Great practice, everybody.
You are ridiculous.
Excuse me, sir. May I ask why you're bringing Packer fans to our Family Fest? This is a family event and you're ruining it. Bring in the Packer. What are you, Intel? Are you CIA? You gonna go snitch? Nah. So what'd you think of Justin Fields? Come on now. All right. Well, what do you think that Aaron Rodgers is going to be a Packer after next season? And are you worried? No. So, do you think that you could pick a Bears fan to date? I'm just saying. I mean, I'm sure she's really nice.
I'll turn her into one.
All right, you're going to turn her into one. Hey, it takes time, man. It takes time. All right, well, best of luck to you. And you behave, all right? Make him a steak dinner tonight or something after showing you the Chicago Bears. You guys have a good one.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. This is Braggs in the Stands, and we are behaving tonight. Well, we'll try at least. It's Packer week, so no promises. I am your host, Gregory Braggs Jr., and alongside me is my co-host, good friend, tennis professional, duck race extraordinaire, diehard Kansas City Chiefs fan, and an all-around good guy. Johnny B, how we doing tonight?
I'm doing fantastic. How's your voice? Sounds a little scratchy there. Are you going to be able to roll with the punches tonight or what?
Little scratchy. Hey, it's been a rainy week. Laying the bricks, trying to beat the rain every day, it seems like. Today we were striking in the rain. So this is what we're up against now. We've entered fall, and it's definitely bear weather, and we're battling the elements, when we're laying the bricks. And, hopefully the Bears aren't battling the elements. On Sunday, it seems like it'll be a clear day. So all systems should be go. Chris Sandlin, my guy, the Sandman, over from the Tape Never Lies Network, who I'll be hanging out with for the next couple days. Phil Latoshin, ringleader of that circus over there, is in town. So we'll be hanging out with Chris and many other friends from the Tape Never Lies Network. This is Braggs in the Stands. Welcome, Chris. We do shows weekly here. We just don't announce when we do them because you just never know when we're going to show up. We got Pat Black in the house. How we doing tonight? And, I like Ty Guy's comment here. You can't spell F the Packers without Packers. That's very true.
Yeah.
All true statements here. So no Trey Tunes tonight. He's doing a gig. He's doing his thing, karaokeing, busiest man in show business, him and Kaplan. And he was out at the live remote, Johnny B, with Waddle and Sylvie today. And I told him, ask Sylvie if he'll allow Trey Tunes to give him a tank top hug. And I never got a response back of whether or not he would, but I'm sure Trey would be a great tank top hug, recipient.
Yeah,
and I'm sorry,
those are one of they're the best. You get the tank top hug, like a 90-degree day, humidity. That's when you really it pays dividends.
Yes. And you can get your tank tops from the Braggs in the Stands shirt shop. A shameless plug here while we get rolling. We got plenty of new designs in the shop. You can get the Cash Mooney. You can get them all. You can get them in shirts. You can get them hoodies. You can get them in tank tops. You can get mugs. You can get stickers. We got the Fields Day, QB1. Our guy Jake, a great graphic designer of this show, makes it look all pretty and professional like you see. Got the new Bear the Fuck Down, Bear TF Down, and then even the Fire Matt Nagy Are We Riot. But you know what, Johnny B? The Bears are on a 2-game winning streak, so we have to holster our angst for Matt Nagy in the front office. And let's see how this plays out for the Chicago Bears. They have a big week ahead, few weeks ahead of them, but none bigger than this week. Bears versus Packers on the Lakefront. Aaron Rodgers, who we thought would never be in a Packers uniform again as he was hinting to leave. And then here he is going to show up to Soldier Field with this smirk on his face. You know how he is.
Yeah, I don't know if I really ever bought that he wasn't going to show up this year, to be honest. I know Bears fans were optimistic, but hey, if you want to be a contender and not a pretender, these are the type of games that you need to win. So division games at home, if you want to step up and be considered a serious, Super Bowl and playoff contender, these are the games you got to win, baby. So, you might as well rock it right now and see where you're at.
Money on the table time. They had a big upset win last week against the Raiders. Then all hell broke loose for the Las Vegas Raiders as they let go of their head coach John Gruden for some emails that came up from, through the Washington football team's owner, and, deservedly so for the firing. I mean, it's, I know I've seen some people call it cancel culture, but it's also accountability culture. And if you're going to be the leader of men, and you have all different people from all different walks of life, different, different race, different, different sexual orientation, and then say things like that in the email, it's pretty hard to continue to gain the respect of your locker room. So the Raiders let their coach go after the Bears let them down, beat them down in Las Vegas while the Bears fans took over. And now, it's the ultimate test. It's like a stair step. They beat the Lions at home, easy business. It's always easy business when you beat the Lions. Then you beat the Raiders on the road, tough game, tough environment, new stadium, lights are bright and everything else. Justin Fields passes that test. Now you're at home against the vaunted Green Bay Packers and, of course, Aaron Rodgers, our longtime nemesis. So it'll be interesting to see if they're willing to live up to the challenge. They got to be able to score more than 20 points. Offensively, they're last in the league in yards per game. And, the defense is doing everything they can to hold on for dear life. So it's a big challenge. Now, the Bears have played better at home. Offensively, defensively, you had Roquan Smith have that pick six against the Bengals. The Bengals are a very tough team, and they were able to beat them. But if they want to beat the Packers, I mean, there's going to be no Damian Williams this week, who is potentially. It's not official. He's on the COVID reserve list, but if he is able to have a positive test or however it works, he can still get on.
You got to have like 3 tests, so it would have to be today, tomorrow, and then probably Sunday morning. I think he would have to test. I think it's 3. It might be 2, but I think it's 3 to get back on the field.
Okay. And then, like I said, Justin Fields is going to be on that field, and he's got to do more of that downfield throwing that we saw the last time they were on the Lakefront against the Lions. And they were cooking. The numbers were deceiving against the Lions, but Justin Fields was airing it out. And then they would get the touchdown on the run with David Montgomery and Damian Williams. But, Justin Fields showed up for that one. And I have a good feeling. I mean, the Packers defense isn't world beaters.
No, they're actually quite decimated in cornerback right now.
Right.
So there should be some plays downfield to be had. They gotta take those chances. They gotta take those shots. And you could be down. Your top 2 running backs in the game. Maybe you have to adjust the game plan a little bit. Maybe you got to go. A little bit more quick RPO and some quick passes to set up some of those big shots. But some of those shots, they're going to have to take some shots. And I think if they don't, it's a disservice to, the Green Bay's defense not being, the cat's meow right now.
Right. And that Aaron Rodgers is going to put it on you. No matter how good your defense is, Aaron Rodgers is going to find a way. He could go up 14-0 like he has many times against the Bears real quick before you're even awake. Or if you get off to a quick start, he's going to come back on you. We've seen it here the last few weeks with the Packers. They should have lost some games here to the Bengals and even the Lions earlier this season. They've had close games pretty much every week, but Aaron Rodgers always seems to find a way. So the only way they're going to be able to stay in this, they're going to need a lot of things to go their way. They're going to need turnovers, maybe a kick return for a touchdown from Jakeem Grant. I've been calling that one for this week. I think that's something that could be in the cards, but they're going to have to go downfield like we've been mentioning. And, we haven't seen too many deep bombs, but this was one of them to Darnell Mooney. And as you said, Packers secondary is decimated. So you got to attack that. We haven't really seen Fields on the move too much. A lot of fans just perceive him as a runner because of how fast he is. But if you look at his career in Ohio State and so far with the Bears, he's a pocket passer first and foremost. He rarely runs out of the pocket. Last week against the Raiders, he tried to run out of the pocket and he hyperextended his knee for a second, which is what you don't want to see if you're a Bears fan. I was like, my heart sunk for a minute. And then he comes back in 2 plays later because this dude's tough as nails. But, maybe there might be opportunities to go downfield because, as you mentioned, with the running backs, no David Montgomery, no Damian Williams. They're going to have to find different ways to help on the run. Now, I'm a huge fan of Khalil Herbert's. We called this last week, called it in a few different outlets, called it here, called it on Twitter, and called it in the Midway Minute for where we enter our picks. And I said, Khalil Herbert's going to surprise. And he did just that. You know, both running backs had over 70 yards or so. They almost had 150 yards total. And Khalil Herbert, he's like a little bowling ball. You know, dare I say he's Nick Chubbish. You know, maybe that's a little bit of hyperbole because we were always going to compare to star-studded players, and this is a third-string rookie running back. But, hey, I mean, look at Kareem Hunt when he came out for the Chiefs. You can speak to this. I don't believe he was predicted to do anything his rookie year and then had a standout rookie season.
Well, that's kind of, a little bit. I mean, when we drafted him, we had hoped that he would be the starter. And in training camp, he quickly became the starter in training camp. So that was no surprise there. I mean, I don't think they exactly knew what they had, when they got him. And then
because what round was he drafted in?
I believe the third round, I want to say. I want to say third.
Herbert's more of a fifth round pick.
I try to put that out of my head, Greg, because it's like still one of my saddest moments. That when we had to let him go and how everything shook out. And, he's a starting running back in this league, and he's going to get a chance to start this week with Chubb being out. But I was surprised when he signed that extension to be the backup last year, and I thought he might come back to Kansas City. I was all in on Kareem. I had his jersey made before the NFL even approved it. And I got a lot of videos of him in the stands scoring a lot of big touchdowns. So, so I hope that he can do that for the Bears, that it's a good comparison. And you know what? Stars are born every day. You just need your chance, and hopefully he runs with it.
Yeah, and, if he's the lead back this week, I got him in fantasy. So certainly hoping for a big week from Khalil for more than a few reasons, obviously, with the Bears first and foremost. Tal says in the chat, her best friend in Iowa and closest friend are Packer fans. And Nature Boy said it perfectly. Nobody's perfect. And, this is a judgment-free zone here. Even Packer fans are welcome here in the chat, even if we're going to give you a little shit. But that is true. Nobody's perfect. So some people have to be Packer fans, I guess.
I don't think I know any Packer fans, honestly.
I know a few, and, they're all friendly. Like from Bernie's Book Bank, the CEO from Bernie's Book Bank, who we're going to have on Monday night. Little teaser for everyone here on the show. Haven't really officially announced this, but our guy, the CEO of Bernie's Book Bank and diehard Green Bay Packer fan, Darren Utnek, who just passed 3 million books given away to kids in need in the Chicagoland area. Really great cause of what they do at Bernie's Book Bank. We walked 25 miles with David Kaplan from ESPN 1000, I tried to help raise a lot of money with them. And he's going to be on the show Monday to react to this Bears-Packers game. And also, our guy, David Kaplan from ESPN 1000, will be joining us Monday night to break it all down. So going to be a lot of fun, and excited to have that conversation, hopefully after a Bears win. But we shall see. And I agree with Nature Boy here. He says, can't wait for Rodgers and Adams to be gone and the Packers go into the QB best like the rest of our teams. And, that is kind of the thing about this week that has me thinking, and I was thinking about it earlier today. We almost had the opportunity, as I brought up at the beginning of the show, there was almost a chance that Aaron Rodgers was never going to play for the Green Bay Packers again. I mean, the day we got Justin Fields in the draft, first round, earlier in the day of that draft, the big news that had broke was that Aaron Rodgers was never going to play for the Packers again and was seriously considering being a Jeopardy host for the rest of his life, as you can see here, which, I didn't watch too many times, but I always said I would have fully supported him in that endeavor. I would have recorded every episode and laughed along the way if that's what he had chose to do. Instead, he, wizened up, I guess, and went back to Green Bay because he's, back to doing what he always does in Green Bay. Him and Devontae Adams are always on another level. But, in the back of our heads for a minute, or even at the forefront of our minds, it was almost going to become a certainty that Aaron Rodgers was never going to play for the Packers again. And I'm almost thinking about this week as, is this the last time we will ever see Aaron Rodgers in a Green Bay uniform playing at Soldier Field? What are your thoughts on that, Johnny? Do you think that this is it, and then after this year, he'll go to the Steelers, or he'll go to the Broncos or some other team that's in quarterback need that's Super Bowl ready? Or is he going to finish out his career with the Green Bay Packers?
Well, I think he's kind of come back this year for basically one reason, and that's just so the fans don't hate him forever. I do think this will probably be his last year in Green Bay. Whether Devontae Adams stays or not, I guess remains to be seen. The two top candidates are the teams that you just said, the Denver Broncos, which obviously they had a weak schedule to start, and now everybody's seeing what's really happening at the quarterback position between Bridgewater and Drew Lock, and then obviously the Pittsburgh Steelers, who have that great defense, but Big Ben only looks like a shadow of himself. So I do think it's the last time you're going to see Aaron Rodgers in the Packers uniform at Soldier Field. And I think that he will go to one of those teams that you just said for next season.
Yeah, it should be interesting. You know, the Steelers seem like a prime team for him. You know, I know a lot of people have talked about the Broncos because they're in quarterback need and they have a decent team. And the Broncos were certainly flirting with that idea of making a trade with the Packers. But he just seems like a Pittsburgh Steeler a little bit, you know, just he plays in the Midwest, and, you know, the Steelers are a tough town with a fan base with a lot of tradition like Green Bay. And they're going to be in quarterback need with Ben Roethlisberger at the end of his tenure. Carmen Carcino isn't as convinced. He says, no, his bitch ass will be back. And, you know, it's tough. It's tough to imagine. It's kind of an I'll believe it when I see it kind of thing. We tried to speak it into existence and it didn't quite happen, but it is definitely in the back of my head. I only got to see Brett Favre one or two times in a Packer uniform play the Bears, and I've seen Aaron Rodgers play the Bears more than a few times. I mean, I got to see the Bears beat them to win the division in 2018. That was a beautiful day. And the season of Club Dub, and then it finished with a double doink. But that day in particular in December when we clinched the division and beat them was a beautiful moment. Matt Nagy's first season, he walks off the field, you know, division champs. It was a great moment. But I've also seen the infamous Randall Cobb, you know, to beat us to go to the playoffs.
That was brutal.
That was one of the toughest games I've ever been to in my life because the Bears could have won that game 7 ways from Sunday, and it finished with on the last drive of that game, 3 4th-down conversions, and the final one being Randall Cobb passing Chris Conte for the touchdown. And that was also Jay Cutler's like greatest game he'd ever played as a quarterback. He could never beat the Packers. And then that game, he plays the game of his life, and it still wasn't good enough. And that's where I go back with this team in this game on Sunday is I just can't get my head around. I mean, you saw it last week with the Bengals, and I know the Bengals missed some field goals to win it, a 57-yarder off the post. And we saw the Lions and other games this season where the Packers could have easily lost. And instead, Aaron Rodgers always does just enough at the end to win. And you're used to this, Johnny B, with your Chiefs kingdom. You know, when you have a great quarterback, no amount of time at the end of the game is not enough for a quarterback like that. They are always going to make that play. And it's hard for me to get around the idea that the Bears can win this game with Aaron Rodgers on that side, because you got to play a flawless game, basically. And then you also have to leave him no time at the end of the game if you have any intention on winning, because he's always going to get you. And then Aaron Rodgers is so motivated by the little things, in my opinion, very Jordan-esque. And I think with Justin Fields, it being his first start, you know, once he starts to sense how hyped Bears fans are right now, you know, when he gets in there, I'm sure he is already fully aware of it, but, you know, he's one of those guys that plays in the moment. And if Justin Fields starts having the game of his life, you know, God forbid we actually, you know, have an offensive, you know, juggernaut of a game, he's going to match it every single time because that's the kind of guy he is. So it's kind of an I'll believe it when I see it kind of thing. I entered my pick into the Midway Minute. It'll come out Sunday for the newsletter. Make sure you subscribe to the Midway Minute for great Chicago sports content from our guy, Kevin Caduck over there. They do a great job. But I entered it today, and I picked the Bears to lose. And I hate saying that, but I'll believe it when I see it. And if it happens, I'll be talking Super Bowl on Monday, even though we got to face Tom Brady next week, which is a whole new test for Justin Fields. But one step at a time, I just have a tough time seeing them taking them down in this moment. It's not impossible. The Bears defense is playing great. They're leading the league in sacks right now with 18. Secondary is playing better than I thought a lot of fans thought they would play, with Kyle Fuller getting released. The run game has been mightily improved since Bill Lazors took over the play calling. Justin Fields looks like the real deal, but it's Aaron Rodgers, and I just have a tough time getting around.
The bottom line is, I don't think you need to play a flawless game. I think you guys need to play a very good game. And what you said there is what I was going to say as an outsider looking in. The Bears do lead the NFL in sacks. That is true. And if you look at the recent history of Bears-Packers, anytime the Bears were in the game, whether they won those couple games that you already referenced, or even that game when it was, I believe, Khalil Mack's first game, and they played the Packers on, the first game of the season, and, Khalil Mack was getting to Rodgers. And even though they lost that game and they probably shouldn't have, the Bears seem to be in it when the pass rush is there. When you can get to the pass rush on Aaron Rodgers, his percentage for completion drops dramatically. It's a big difference. I saw the stat today. I'm not sure exactly what the numbers were, but when you get that pressure in his face and he doesn't have a clean pocket to throw, that's going to be the key to the Bears staying in the game and having the chance to win. And then, Justin Fields is going to have to make some plays. He's going to have to make some big plays. I think he's going to have to make a few with his feet, if the pocket breaks down, which we know he's capable of doing. And he's going to have to push the ball down the field. I think for them to win this game, they need to get some pressure. They need to have Rodgers uncomfortable for most of the afternoon. And then they need to have Justin Fields, start to become the star that everybody wants him to be and make those plays with his legs and the big throws down the field.
Sure. I mean, they have 18 sacks, which leads the league. But interestingly enough, I believe they only their blitz percentage is at like 17%, which is like one of the lowest in the league. And that shows that they're getting home with just their front four, or sending four, maybe not necessarily just the front four, switching up and disguising who you're sending, but typically only sending four. And that probably is the recipe to beat an Aaron Rodgers, because if you blitz him, he's going to identify that and pick you apart. He's going to pick you apart a few different ways, but that could be the way to beating them, is getting to the quarterback, maybe forcing a turnover, things of that nature. And then, Haitian Drew brings up their D is depleted, which we brought up with the corners. They have other injuries outside of the secondary too. And, their defense is definitely beatable, but the equal two factor of that is the Bears offense still hasn't gotten going. As excited as we've been the last few weeks, this isn't the Chiefs offense quite yet, and we're still waiting for that breakout performance from Justin Fields through the air. I mean, even against the Lions, when he's airing it out, making nice throws, only throws for like 200 yards or so and no passing touchdowns. And last week he has one passing touchdown of beauty to Jesper Horsted in the end zone, back to threw it over the shoulder of a secondary that had his back turned to him. And, he can make those plays, but, we haven't seen the 350-yard, 3-touchdown performance yet. Patrick Mahomes does that in his sleep in one half, and we do it this week, and we might throw a parade.
Well, I mean, you got to put them in position to make these plays too, and I think they're going to have to open the playbook up a little bit, to beat this team, to beat the Packers. And, everyone talked about the reps he didn't get, in training camp and all that with the first teamers. Maybe that's haunted him a little bit the last couple of weeks, even though they still been finding a way to win. But, now, like I said, it's division time. It's getting to fall. Like you said, the weather's turning a little bit. And it's not all sunshine and rainbows, even though it's supposed to be a pretty nice day on Sunday. But this is a division rival. This is the top dog, and you're not gonna be able to play totally conservative and hope the defense plays a perfect game to win this game. So open the playbook up a little bit. He obviously had the fantastic touchdown pass that was a top level touchdown pass last week. We need to see more of that. You need to see him be able to make plays like that and make plays down the field.
Yeah, I agree with your assessment as far as training camp and not getting enough first team reps is part of this reason why it's developing slower than maybe Bears fans out. We all want instant gratification and things to go well right away. But, even Darnell Mooney mentioned that he's much calmer in the huddle now because he's not rushing to call the play out, because he's more comfortable and understanding how much time he has to get lined up and snap the ball before, the play clock, winds down.
It's so funny that you say that because I used to get so pissed when we had Alex Smith as our quarterback. Not that he wasn't a great quarterback for us, and he was some of the best years of his career, but he always was like, it seemed like the play calling in the huddle and everything was always late. And if there was any kind of audible or check down that needed to be made at the line, it was always going down to like 2 seconds, 1 second, and hiking the ball basically at 0, but just before the delay of game. And then once Patrick Mahomes got in there, he seemed to control the huddle. He seemed to control all that way better. So when he's getting up to the line, there's a good 15, 17 seconds left and plenty of time to read what he wants to see and, and get everybody where he wants to get them and then get the playoff and do it right with plenty of time where nothing is rushed. Yep. So I could see that, being a good factor as he gets more comfortable, calms down, absorbing the information, relaying it to the squad in the huddle, and then going from there.
Yeah, 100%. And you saw on that highlight there how he checked out to whatever the previous play was and then hits a dime ball to Allen Robinson on the sideline. Another guy that needs to get going a little more offensively and finding that chemistry with Justin Fields to help Darnell Mooney, who I think him and Justin have a little more of a rapport at this point. And then, of course, the tight ends. We haven't had much tight end help here so far. Cole Kmet, he had a big catch at the end of last game, but it still hasn't facilitated into big plays quite yet. And, it's again, this is a chemistry thing, when the scramble drill starts like you're seeing here, and Cole Kmet can't come down with this catch. Well, Cole Kmet, may not have as much athleticism as Travis Kelce or George Kittle, but at the same time, Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes make plays like that because of their chemistry and him understanding what Patrick Mahomes is trying to do right there, where he didn't go to the sidelines with that throw after he scrambles out. He throws it back to his back shoulder to throw the receiver open, as they say. Well, Cole, to try to be fair to the whole thing, hasn't practiced this as much with in live bullets with, I keep wanting to say Patrick Mahomes with Justin Fields, and, maybe with more reps and they're going to have a better understanding of what Justin Fields is trying to do and complete those kind of plays. Yeah,
those plays broke down. When they break down like that, the Chiefs receivers always do a good job of realizing it and finding the open space, whether it's them getting to the open space and Mahomes finding them, or whether it's, Mahomes throwing them to the open area and them recognizing that and getting over to the ball. I thought that, Fields in the preseason had a nice, connection with Jesse James. I don't know what's happening with that.
Yeah.
Maybe they could try him, give him a few
He's
more
been
reps.
inactive, and I agree. I've been surprised with Fields now that Jesse hasn't had his opportunity yet, because you're right. They had a good connection in the preseason and at training camp.
Yep.
You see,
like that was the touchdown, obviously, but there was a couple other, big plays that they made in the preseason down the field. It seemed like they had good connection going, immediately. That might be something, and if you're looking at the body type of Jesse James, I mean, obviously he's no Travis Kelce or George Kittle, like you said, but, he's a little bit, more athletic, maybe tight end than Cole Kmet. He's been around, he's a veteran, and maybe he could find those open spots on those, on those plays that break down where Justin's rolling out.
Well, Jesse's been inactive, but Jesper Horsted got to be active last week and got a touchdown, and he had 3 touchdowns in the preseason, in one game. And so he got an opportunity and got a touchdown. I want to see more opportunities from him. This is a guy out of Princeton, athletic player. He was one of the best athletes to ever come out of Minnesota high school sports. This guy's an athlete, and he showed that with his good hands, coming down with a tough catch, well covered in the end zone. So Nature Boy's taking off. Thanks for joining us here for the start of this show. Another guy that's joined us is, of course, Will. Dun, dun, dun. Will has entered the chat.
Dun, dun, dun.
Triggered Will. And, of course, Mr. Gloom and Doom has no way, no how that the Bears win on Sunday.
What did he say about the Raiders game? I mean, obviously on the road.
I'm not sure what his prediction for the Raiders was, but he's been wrong plenty of times so far. He's always on Twitter saying he speaks the truth, and people can't handle that. But, more times than not, Will tends to be wrong about things. Not saying he doesn't get everything wrong. He doesn't get everything wrong. But, we had shows in the preseason where I tried to tell him that Sean Desai would get this defense turned around. If you had read the tea leaves, this guy was going to bring back a Vic Fangio type of defense. And he was on the show telling me that I'm drinking the Kool-Aid and no way the Bears could beat the Bengals. And then they beat the Bengals. And, the list kind of starts to pile up on Will. He also said the Bears would only win 5 or less games. They're not at 3 after 5. They're 3-2. So already more than halfway there. And we're not even halfway through the season yet. So, no way, no how is a bit of hyperbole from Will. I'm picking the Bears to lose, Will. But I'm not saying no way, no how. I'm not feeling that confident because we got to face Aaron Rodgers. But no way, no how. Only Sith Lords deal in absolutes, as they say in Star Wars. And Will is certainly, is there anybody that looks like a Sith Lord more than Will? There's no, in my opinion, if you were to say who's a Sith Lord, and then I showed you this picture, look at that. That could be the next bad guy in the next Star Wars series,
No doubt.
He could be the next bad guy in The Mandalorian. Look at that. So I'm sorry, Will. We're not going to, he's picking them 23-13, and that's fine. I'm picking the Bears to lose 28-20, get a couple touchdowns, couple field goals, but at the end of the day, Rodgers outduels Justin Fields. And I hope I'm wrong. I said a lot.
I'm staying away from this game altogether. I have a feeling they're going to open up Justin a little bit. I'm not saying the Bears are going to win, but I have a feeling they're going to open him up. I think you might find that Justin gets his 2 touchdown passing game, his first multiple touchdown passing game, I believe, right, of his career this week, and maybe even runs one in.
He had the first touchdown pass last week, but first one at Soldier Field.
I'm talking a multiple touchdown pass.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
I think he might get that this week. He might get the 2, with that dilapidated, secondary. But I'm intrigued by this game. I don't know. I just think with the Bears, the way they're getting pressure, I'm intrigued. I think they're going to make Rodgers uncomfortable. Obviously, we know the kicker all of a sudden for the Packers is shaky. I don't know. I just think it's going to be a closer game than people think, and I'm definitely interested in it. It's going to be definitely going on the old West TV at the Johnny B Sportsbook, that's for sure.
There you go.
It's going to
and
be
you
on
got
the
a
West
nice
TV.
setup. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, it's going to be on that West TV. We got center.
Did
West.
they win on the West TV? You said the last time a couple weeks ago that you were going to start switching it up where you put them.
Right.
So now that they've been on a winning streak, have they been on that TV?
That is true. That is true. The last time they won, they were on the East TV. I was obviously not watching the game at home last week because I was in Kansas City. So you're right. I almost choked that. They're going to have to go on the East.
Glad to remind you.
You're welcome. If they win, you screen capture this video and play it back. You just saved the Bears, man.
It takes a village, and we got to make sure we get our ducks in a row around here.
That's right.
Johnny B always getting his ducks in a row.
Ducks line up. Ducks line up.
We got to start putting more of your duck races here on Brags in the stands.
I got somebody ripped off my duck race a little bit.
No.
Yes, dude. Somebody ripped it off.
Well, that's when you know you've made it.
Is that right? So
that's when you officially know you've made it. Imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, and I never had people copying what I do, whether it's video or the way I fan, so to speak. Right. And then you'll see some imitators out there, and at the end of the day, it's flattery, but it's sad to see because people can't be original and do their own kind of vibe and do their own thing, But
basically, a couple of my people saw this. I don't know where they saw it, and it was somebody that was doing it called a duck off, and basically he took the 2 teams of the Thursday night football game, and he raced them to decide who was going to win the game. But it was a very similar setup. It was a very similar start and finish. And
Acevedo's has got his eye on him. So we're going to have to, go after this guy, it sounds like, to just let him know he's trying to take a bite from the Johnny B pie. But you know what? At the end of the day, and I've gone through this too, and as I said, imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, and you'll have people that try to replicate what you do. But when you are original and great at what you do, and you are great at what you do with your duck races, Johnny B.
Thanks, brother.
He can't do. I haven't even seen this yet, but I already know this jokester can't do it like Johnny B. He ain't calling the race with the same enthusiasm have the same catchphrases, the same energy and hype and dedication that Johnny B has with it. So it will only last so long. You know, maybe you need to make sure you're getting on TikTok. Maybe I need to start looking into TikTok because I know videos move much faster on that platform. I mean, one of my largest viewed videos ever was a video that Barstool asked permission to use. And it's nice when people ask for permission to use videos and content ideas and things like that. But, you know, they're always nice enough to ask for my stuff. And I always allow them to because they're always cool about asking before they take. And they put something on TikTok that had like 1.5 million views. And that was the most I've ever had of anything because I guess the way the algorithms work with videos on TikTok. But, you know, it's always – you know, I guess with the exception of Twitter, I've always kind of been late to the party with every social medium, whether it's Facebook. It took me a while to get on Facebook. It took me a while to get on Snapchat. It took me a while to get on Instagram. And, you know, it just seems like TikTok's another one of those things where maybe I should have struck right away and that would help grow what we're trying to do here or help you grow what you're trying to do. But it's, you know, it's always funny. The first perception of Twitter was that you could watch what Ashton Kutcher, you could read what Ashton Kutcher was eating for breakfast.
Right.
He was like the only guy on Twitter when Twitter first started in 2009. And then TikTok is for little teenagers who are doing silly dances, but then it evolves into some. Snapchat was a medium where you sent snaps, you know, to girls, you know, or guys, whoever you're trying to get with. And it was, you know, private. Now Snapchat is something totally different from what it originally was seen as. And TikTok has kind of evolved into that as well, where it started as this silly dancing thing. And now a lot of people use it as a source of information.
Yeah,
you know,
so a lot of content too, you know, not just obviously the Jackson Mahomes TikTok dances, LOL, but, you know, all sorts of different content, you know, I see on, and even they post them, you know, on Twitter, they pop them up and it's pretty interesting.
Yeah. Well, Will's taken off, you know, that's sad to see because he always, you know, we give Will a lot of shit here, but he always lights the chat up with his crazy takes. So Will's off to, you know, do his thing, maybe cook some food for his lovely family or whatever, or, you know, maybe tweet, you know, maybe he's tweeting right now like this and, you know, it's firing off some kind of mean tweet to me. You know, but we appreciate you checking in. I always appreciate your support. But as Alex Acevedo said, often imitated, never duplicated. That's what we are here at Brags in the Stands. That's what I am. That's what Johnny B is. You can try it, but you can't fake it. You can only fake it for so long. But people understand what genuine is and what clout chasers are, so to speak. And, you know, while we enjoy promoting what we do, there's no clout chasing going on here at Brags in the Stands. We are genuine in what we do. I can promise you, and I can speak for Johnny B here, I think, but I would do what I do as far as videos in the stands and fan, whatever, how I am harassing the Green Bay fan at the beginning of the show, as you saw, or Johnny B would do duck races if only if him and his wife and a couple family members were watching it. I've been doing videos for well over 10, 15 years. And I used to do them when I'd take them home and only show them to my wife and a couple friends. So, you know, what we do is genuine and we enjoy it. And that's kind of what ends up being the draw to people that enjoy what we're trying to do. You only truly get that. It only builds the right way if you're doing it genuinely and not for clout reasons. So
there you go.
You know, that's my speech for the day. You know, another thing with Justin Fields that stood out to me this week was in his presser, something you've seen on the Twitter waves and social media waves. Justin Fields ain't playing around, Johnny B. I just love his demeanor. You know, no disrespect to former quarterbacks, Jay Cutler or Mitch Trubisky or Rex Grossman. They'd get kind of deer in the headlights looks at times when things weren't going well. Justin Fields comes from Ohio State, played in national championships, been toe-to-toe with Trevor Lawrence as one of the best quarterbacks in the country since high school. So he seems unflappable. And he was asked about being the Michigan in the Michigan-Ohio State rivalry now in the NFL with Bears-Packers. And I don't know if you've seen this, Johnny B, but you got to see his reaction to it. To me, it shows how this guy is ready to take this franchise to the next level. He is not playing around. Justin Fields.
Bears are kind of the Michigan in this rivalry against the Packers. What's happening? I guess what do you feel like is the key to be a part of this, turning that around?
Executing and making plays. Of course, we know they're talented on offense and defense, so it's just going to come down to executing and making plays.
There's Justin Fields. They try to get him to laugh, just crack a smile. Hey, you're now the Michigan of the Michigan-Ohio State rivalry. He ain't trying to hear that. Maybe his disdain still for Michigan, that rivalry is as tough as it gets in college football. But even to be referred to that now in the professional level, he it seemed like he took exception to it. And, he answered it seriously. He did not smirk. And everybody in the press room is laughing, yakking it up. And he's got those assassin eyes. He really reminds me, and you're a Bulls fan too, Johnny B. He really reminds me of Derrick Rose. When Derrick Rose first came here, as serious a customer as you, and I watched him in high school and played 1 year at Memphis in college, but always was so locked in, not messing around, none of the funny business. He was never like LeBron. There was the famous video of LeBron and the other guys coming out the tunnel of the All-Star game dancing, and Derrick's just standing there like, nope. And that's what Justin, and that's who Justin Fields is. Like, he's not playing around. He's got this desire to be great, and he's not going to accept being the Michigan of the Michigan-Ohio State rivalry.
Well, I think there's a couple things there to that. Obviously, doing what he did to Michigan while he was there, he is not going to ever be compared to Michigan just because, that's one of his greatest rival, in college football and conference. But, he's just letting you know that, he's there now. He's the QB1 for Chicago. All that other stuff that happened before, all the other quarterbacks, Mitch, whoever, that's not him, man. That's not him. This is his first game against the Green Bay Packers. He's not here to mess around. He's not here to make jokes. He's here to start getting those reps, start getting better as a quarterback, and he wants to be a superstar, and he wants to lead this team to a Super Bowl and then hopefully win it. He's not there for fun and games, man. It's his first chance to play Aaron Rodgers, and he's all business all the time.
That's right. QB1 indeed. And again, you can get your QB1 sweatshirts. It's sweatshirt season now. Got my hoodie on. It's hoodie season now. Get your QB1 shirts at our Brags in the Stands Pro Shop on Teespring. Search Brags in the Stands on teespring.com. And go ahead and get yourself some good QB1 gear. But I completely agree. It's just fun to see that kind of a quarterback. I wanted to run through a brick wall for Derrick Rose when he was here. And Justin is starting to become that type of a guy for this team. The team already seems like they want to run through a brick wall for him. You saw the hype and energy, and I can play it again after the A-Rob catch. That's really stood out to me in the Lions game. Not just the aerial assault, but just how hyped they get when this guy makes a play for them. And, this offense and defense has been working their butt off, and the quarterback has always been kind of inconsistent. Now the quarterback is making them better around them. And you see how hyped Damian Williams is there, Allen Robinson, and Justin is calm, cool, collected as he's coming down the field after he first down. He's not too high of highs, not too low of lows. And, Peyton Manning on his Manning cast, that they haven't done them the last couple of weeks. I don't know why. I wish they'd go back to them because they're great. And the Bears play on Monday night here coming up against the
ESPN's in shambles, dude. They probably couldn't afford them that many weeks in a row.
I guess, or maybe they're trying to reformulate how many guests they have. I don't know, but they need to bring them back because they're great, and I want them to do it when the Bears are playing. But he said in one of his Manning casts, football is a game of emotion for everybody on the field, but the quarterback cannot show emotion, or else more times than not, it's going to get the best of them. And that made a lot of sense. And Justin Fields kind of embodies that, and I just think this is the type of guy that's going to take you to the next level as long as he continues to get better. Bear Truth 9 agreement with the D Rose demeanor, calling him Michael Jordan, that's a bridge too for nobody, as much as we love Justin or anybody else. You can't compare anybody to Michael Jeffrey Jordan. That man was different. Not, LeBron James has had a 20-year career of greatness, and anytime anybody even tries to compare him, it's an insult to what Michael Jordan was. But Derrick Rose, injuries aside, the demeanor and the way he carries himself, on the field, off it, whatever, it definitely has some similarities there, the way he just represents the city the right way and is serious along the way with it. But yeah, Jay Smooth. I like that. Jay Smooth taking this ride. That's a great nickname, Jay Smooth. Haven't heard that one yet, but he's very smooth.
Well, it's kind of funny you said that about the Manning cast, because even before you said it, I was going to say that's kind of how you want your quarterback to be. You want them to inject emotion at the right time, not too early in the game. And they will do it. They'll pump the fist and do it. And the good quarterbacks know when to do that and when not to. And then you let the other guys feed off the lightning rod. The quarterback's the lightning rod, soaking in all the lightning coming in. And that's, your wide receivers who are usually a little bit more, wild and eccentric, and then your running backs and all that. And they're feeding off the quarterback, so you can't have your quarterback, too high, not too high or too low. And it'll show their emotion at the proper time, but you just don't want, your quarterback going haywire all the time. I think that's not good for pace. It's not good for momentum of the drives, all of that. So it's well put. And obviously two guys that would know that are those Manning brothers, who obviously won 2 Super Bowls each. So,
yeah, I think they know a little bit about being calm, cool, and collected under pressure. Although Peyton would get the happy feet every once in a while. I used to be a big Manning hater. Now I want him to be president of football operations for the Chicago Bears. So I don't hate on him as much anymore. I think he'd be perfect in that role for the Chicago Bears. Let Ryan Pace, be the top dog. I'm not even looking for jobs. I'm not trying to fire people. Let Ted Phillips be the president of the money side of operations. Help build the next stadium in Arlington Heights. Let Ryan Pace be the GM. I've been more of a defender of Ryan Pace lately, and it's been pissing some people off. Me and Sylvie had some arguments through text, because I'm starting to really, feel like Ryan Pace has turned a corner, and I got some pushback from some different people on Twitter. The pundit was very angry at me about this, saying I'm a gutless Bears fan that doesn't deserve winning because I changed my mind on Ryan Pace. But at the same time, I'm allowed to change my opinion on things. I'm still holding out for Matt Nagy. Yes, we have the fire Matt Nagy or we riot shirts, and the riot stuff is tongue in cheek for those of you that think we're being serious around here. But I wanted Matt Nagy fired at the end of last year. I wanted Ryan Pace gone at the end of last year, and they haven't been perfect by any means. But Ryan Pace has done. GMs aren't going to be perfect. And he righted a wrong getting Justin Fields at 11. Missing on Mahomes and Watson at 2, trading up from 3 to 2 was tough. We had to eat 4 years. 2 of those years we made the playoffs, or 2 of the 3 years, whatever you want to say. And it wasn't terrible, but it could have been greatness that you're living right now, Johnny B. Back-to-back Super Bowl appearances. It would have been a real home run hit to draft Patrick Mahomes at 2. He didn't get drafted until 10, right?
Yeah.
And now Justin Fields falls to 11, that kind of championship pedigree like a Deshaun Watson. And to me, he righted that wrong. And then you put it all together. You look at Jalen Johnson and the defensive line, how stacked they seem to be. And some of the late round picks like Darnell Mooney, you're seeing Khalil Herbert start to break out. David Montgomery is a weapon when he's healthy. The offensive line hasn't been good, and they've been doing the best they can here lately, getting Jason Peters, but Tevin Jenkins in the second round, he's the book's still out on him. He's got to get healthy. Cole Kmet in the second round hasn't lived up to what that kind of a pick should be. But then you got Roquan Smith, who's going to be one of the highest paid linebackers in football here soon. And like I said, Jalen Johnson. Eddie Jackson's been a disappointment, but that was a late round injury pick who did really well, came firing out the gate, maybe feeling himself a little bit too much here lately, but has all the talent in the world. I think Ryan Pace has put together a team with a lot of talent, and I think it's been the coaches that haven't gotten the most out of that. Last year, a truther as defined by Chris Black and Adam Abdallah from ESPN 1000, would make all these excuses. It's the offensive line, it's the play calling, it's the run game, it's all these different reasons. And that wasn't for me to excuse the quarterback. It was really honestly to just try to get an understanding of why things didn't look the way they looked. It wasn't to absolve Mitch Trubisky. He wasn't perfect either. But I will, now that I've seen it with Justin Fields and Andy Dalton and Mitch is out of the picture. We saw it a little bit last year with Nick Foles as well when Mitch was on the bench. Matt Nagy just hasn't gotten the most out of this team. And I feel like a competent head coach, a competent coaching staff can do a better job of getting the most out of his team. And maybe now that Matt Nagy's put down the play call sheet, maybe now Matt Nagy can do what he can do on the sidelines as a leader of men, so to speak, and let the coaches help call the plays and get their ducks in a row, as we like to say here. To me, it's been more of a coaching issue than a talent issue here in Chicago. And I'm starting to turn the corner on calling for Ryan Pace's head. And now my eyes are on Matt Nagy to develop Justin Fields and this offense.
Well, a lot of people always think that, GMs and, the scouts and everything that do all the work leading up to the draft, they're expecting to hit on every draft pick. And that's just not realistic. Obviously, you got to get the right players in the right system with the right coaches. Obviously, you talked about Roquan Smith. You got Justin Fields, and he's a rookie. He's going to have his ups and downs, but you feel like you got somebody you can build around. And you talk about Trubisky and how you had the 4 years, but, that is kind of a bust because even though there was 2 years that weren't that bad, I mean, you draft a quarterback, in the first round, you're not hoping that they don't make the second contract. Obviously, you want them to be a star. You want them to be a top quarterback in the NFL. So after you part ways with a top pick like that after 4 years, that is a bust. So a lot of people are kind of thinking about that and thinking already that Pace is no good. But, they have hit on some draft picks and, Mooney's starting to shine when he's getting his opportunities a little bit more. And, a couple of the offensive linemen that they drafted this year, unfortunately, aren't playing right now with the injuries, and that remains to be seen. But
he hit the home run trading for Khalil Mack.
Yeah.
I mean, that almost got him to a Super Bowl in 2018 with Mitch Trubisky. And now look, they're leading the league in sacks again. A lot of people have been hard on Mack the last few years. Maybe he wasn't healthy. Maybe we were asking the defense to do too much. But, Robert Quinn, that was a signing that a lot of people bagged on Ryan Pace about. Now, look, those two guys are flying around. They got Travis Gibson, this young guy that looks like a monster of the midway. And I think Bear Trudon brings up a good point here. He doesn't mind Pace as long as he fires Matt Nagy. And that's the thing. He has to be fair in this evaluation to Matt Nagy, who has had plenty of chances to prove himself as a competent head coach. And that's where the book is still out. And I hope that he can be fair in his evaluation of Matt Nagy throughout the year. It's a tough evaluation because he's now given up the play calling sheet 2 years in a row, at the end of last year and now this year. And both times, the offense and the team improved without him calling the plays. Now, you could dice that up two different ways. You could say, well, he humbled himself and did the right thing that was best for the team, and ultimately they ended up winning games for that. Or you could, if you're a cynic, you could be like, well, he was brought here to call the plays, and he can't do that. And if he can't do that, then he shouldn't be the head coach of this team. It's a tough one. If winning cures all. And I'll be fair to Matt Nagy just as much as I've been fair to Ryan Pace, as hard as I've been and feel like he didn't have the respect of the locker room. If this team turns it around, bygones be bygones and give him more of an opportunity to show himself. But we still got a long season ahead of us. And so, I don't want to put the horse or the cart before the horse here, and we have with our fire Matt Nagy or we riot. I mean, when Cleveland Browns game comes around and you get one passing yard and you almost get your franchise rookie quarterback killed, that's where I'm going to overreact, and rightfully so. But now they're on a 2-game winning streak. They beat the Packers and they've righted the ship. I'm going to have to give Matt Nagy credit to that. Now, how much credit? It's tough because he's not calling plays right now, but you will have to give him some credit.
Well, the bottom line is that Matt Nagy was brought in here to score points. His offense was supposed to be like, the NFC version of the Kansas City Chiefs, and it has not been that. So, I mean, he's got to start developing these play calls with the personnel that he has, starting with Justin Fields, whether that means, throwing in some more RPOs, whether that means rolling the pocket, that remains to be seen. But you have to build around the quarterback. You have to build the offense around that. That's the first and foremost.
Yep.
And he was brought in to be an offensive guru.
Right. And they've been winning games mainly off of their defense.
And that has not happened. They've been winning games off their defense. The defense is getting them ahead. The defense is giving them some short fields. The defense is keeping teams in 3rd and long. And then they're getting good field position where they can score some points, just enough to win. We need to see if Matt Nagy's going to be around. We need to see if he can be that guy to throw up 30 points a game, and it just hasn't happened yet. And if he can't be that guy, then he's maybe not the guy to be the head coach of his team, and they're going to have to decide that.
Right. And one of my biggest fears, of not giving Justin Fields the reins in training camp where I thought they should have, now look, the Bears are competitive at 3-2. They're 1 game behind the Packers. They could be in first place if they beat the Packers here this week. But what if we get to fast forward to the end of the season, they miss the playoffs by 1 game, and that could easily be drawn up to the handling of Andy Dalton versus Justin Fields, to start the season. You wasted all these reps for Andy Dalton because of this process. And Andy Dalton ends up only being your starter for a game and a half against the Rams, where they got bludgeoned, and then 1 quarter against his former team, the Bengals, at the home opener. And since then, it's been the Justin Fields show. And so now all those reps have been wasted, trying to get Andy Dalton ready for a season. And now they're scrambling. You think that, everybody's like, well, you hear a lot in the offseason. And even now you'll hear fans say, well, this is a throwaway season. That all that matters is the development of Justin Fields. The players aren't thinking like that. They're trying to win. Chubbs, where's Chubbs? He'd be the first one. They want to win now. And that was always my gripe of Andy Dalton being in there. It was hurting their potential chance to have a playoff run. And now you're seeing it 3-2 here with Justin Fields as your quarterback. Who's to say it could have been better if Justin Fields starts? But I do know, and this is something we've talked about here a lot tonight, is that the chemistry would be well ahead of schedule. Mac Jones, look at how he's doing in New England. He's got less wins than or maybe same amount of wins, but I think he's 2-3.
Yeah, he's 2-3. Justin is what?
Fields
2-1
is 2-1 or 2-0, right? 2-1. 2-1. But he also got the win against the Bengals. That doesn't count to his record, but he played for the majority of that game as well. So it's hard to say where their record would be, but we do know the chemistry would be much better. And, Derek wants to know in the chat, well, who wrote the wrong? Leadership. Pace is not that guy. You're not that guy. You're not that guy, Cal.
You're not that guy.
It's one of my favorite videos. But at the same time, we don't know. Maybe Pace is the guy that walked into Matt Nagy's room, as I heard him on the Tape Never Lies Network, David Kaplan, with my guys Phil and Shane over there. David Kaplan, who we're going to have on Monday night, talking about Bears Packers. He said, Matt Nagy got a knock to that door. Maybe it was from Ryan Pace. It probably was from Ryan Pace to tell him enough of the Andy Dalton wishy-washy nonsense. Justin Fields is your QB1 starter. And that's leadership. So if you want to say Pace is not that guy, maybe he was the one that pushed the hand that forced Matt Nagy to start Justin Fields. That is leadership. So somewhere along the way, somebody's got to get credit. Bear Truth 9 is vehemently against giving Matt Nagy any kind of credit. And that's fine. I understand that. Every time they screw up, we all want to blame Matt Nagy. And I get that. When they run a QB option sweep to the short side of the field, we're all like, that's Matt Nagy that just did that. And then when they play well, we're like, Bill Lazor, see, he fixed it all for our offense of, scheming. But at the same time, they're still last in the offense and passing yards and things of that nature.
What's the most points this year the Bears have scored?
Shit. Well, I mean, against the Bengals, I think they had I'd have to go back and look, but I think it was the Bengals game.
They haven't hit 30 one time, right?
No, and offensively, they haven't come close. I mean, the Bengals game, they put up some points, but the Roquan Smith pick 6. Derek says in the chat the most they put up offensively is 20. So we'll go off of Derek here.
Yeah, that's not why you brought Matt Nagy to Chicago.
Yeah, absolutely not. But at the same time, and this is his fault, as Bear Truth 9 points out. They've only put up 20, but now we're only a few games into the Justin Fields era. Let's see how this progresses with Justin Fields. But at the same time, you're playing both sides of the coin here. They could be further ahead if they had just gave him the proper snaps in camp. And that's what's frustrating because we all could see it. I could see it from the stands at training camp. The pundits nationally could see it from TV, going off one preseason game and a family fest where yours truly got some cool shots that went viral. That was all anybody really had to go off of.
Were those legal videos? Or
they were legal because you can do video at Soldier Field. You just can't do any at training camp.
Imagine in the modern world having people come to watch your practice and telling them they can't take videos.
It's an amazing thing. I mean, the Bulls, who are playing right now their final preseason game, their home openers coming up on Wednesday, I believe they live streamed their practice yesterday. But the Bears, they got to keep everything, under secrecy because they can't allow this world-beating offense to anyone know anything. It's silliness, but backwards thinking, in my opinion. But hey, to each his own. So we'll see. Like I said, I'm just trying to be fair to this entire situation. The Bears are 3-2 right now. If they make the playoffs again, I don't care what anybody says, including myself. We got Fire Matt Nagy or We Riot shirts in our store, but they're not firing anybody if they make the playoffs. There will be some, including myself, if we fall 1 or 2 games short of the playoffs at the end, who are going to be banging our fists on the table saying, had you just started Justin Fields, maybe this doesn't happen. But in that scenario, if they have a close to 500 or over 500 record and fall short of the playoffs, I don't see anyone leaving this year either. The only way I could still see Ryan Pace saying, all right, Matt Nagy, we need to bring in a proper head coach to take Justin Fields to the next level is if they start losing some games and they fall well out of the playoff race. There will be more disappointment than not. And I think that should be then the opportunity to move on from Matt Nagy. They should have done it at the end of last year.
But they didn't. Some secret reports that there might have been like a secret extension for Nagy?
There's secret extensions for Pace that have been reports, but I don't know if they can do that for a head coach.
Maybe it was Pace I heard about.
I know in baseball, nobody really knows how long Tony La Russa's contract is with the White Sox, who just got ousted here from the playoffs, and they said he's going to be back next year, and that's up to La Russa. But in football, they have contracts that are public knowledge, so I don't know if they can do a secrecy thing with Matt Nagy necessarily, but Ryan Pace's contract has definitely been under question. Now, we had Tom Waddle on the show around the draft season, and we were looking forward to bringing him back on the show to get his thoughts on everything that's transpired here lately. But he had said after the draft that he thought that Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy now had a 2-year leash as soon as they drafted Justin Fields, and I pushed back on Tom Waddle on that opinion because I felt like while Ryan Pace might have made up for some past bad decisions, I thought Matt Nagy still had a lot to prove. And to start this season, I think if we had him on then, he would agree that, Matt Nagy's job is more on the line than maybe he even initially thought. But now they're 3-2, so it's easier to say, well, he's going to be back next year at this point, maybe. But to me, he still has a lot to prove, and he's now put the play call sheet down again, and so it's not a finished book. The book hasn't been completely written. He's had more than enough time to prove himself, and he hasn't up to this point. But let's see where this season goes. If they beat Green Bay tomorrow or on Sunday, I'm going to be on here talking Super Bowl on Monday, and he's the head coach of this team. And then if they were to somehow, some way make the playoffs again, that would be 3 times in the last 4 years of Matt Nagy's tenure, albeit by a defensively led team. But at the end of the day, he's the head coach. The buck stops with him. And if the buck is getting you to the Super Bowl, then, it's hard to argue not bringing him back to see where it goes, and I know that frustrates a lot of fans, but that's how I believe front office will look at it.
Well, backing into the playoffs, a little bit, is one thing, but getting into the playoffs, you've got to make a little noise. You've got to win a game. You've got to win two games. You can't just back into the playoffs and then lose by 15 or 2 touchdowns or whatever, and then your season's over. You got to get into the playoffs. You got to win a game. You got to show some kind of progress. You know what I mean? It's easier to make the playoffs now. You got an extra game. You got an extra team. I mean, you got to make some noise. You got to do something in the playoffs if you want to take this coaching
They
step.
made the playoffs last year backing in, and it was with an extra team making it for the first time, with this new structured playoffs. And that's why they made it, and they got their face kicked in by the Saints. And so, I get it. But looking at through the lens of George McCaskey, who was very loyal to these guys, didn't fire them in the face of every fan in Chicago wanting both these guys fired. But hey, who knows? If they had fired Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy, Justin Fields may not be your quarterback, especially with Ryan Pace, because Ryan Pace is the one that had this relationship with Dave Gettleman from the Giants and facilitated the trade at 11 to get Justin Fields. So in an alternate universe, we don't know. And now look how happy everyone is that we have Justin Fields. So all things happen for a reason.
Let me ask you this, Greg. Let me ask you this. What if the Bears get into the playoffs? Let's say they don't even back in, but they get one of the last 2 playoff spots. They're averaging 20 points a game, if that, offensively, and they lose the first round of the playoffs.
I mean, if it was me, I'd want look at the new coach for the Chargers, who used to be an assistant coach here. Staley, what a name too to have as the coach of the Bears. Couldn't you imagine? But I don't like how he handled Justin Fields. I don't like how he handled the team the last few years. But I'm trying to be fair to this. If they made the playoffs again, I don't know if I could go. I mean, it's context. How do they lose in the playoffs?
What if it's a defense? And like I said, they're averaging 20 points a game. The defense is keeping them in it like they do every week, leading the NFL in sacks, which is obviously no easy task. Keeping them close, giving them some short fields, and then they get into the playoffs again and then lose that first round.
What I would do is I'd get a new head coach, but the grass is always greener on the other side to fans. What ownership is going to do?
That grass is not green,
I know.
Bro.
Hey, I get it. I'm just saying, I get it. I would fire Matt Nagy is my answer if it was me as the owner. But as Shane Marsaw says in the chat, if they get in the playoffs, Bears ownership isn't firing Nagy, etch it in stone. I completely agree. And I'll go beyond that. If they finish at 500 or above it, they're not firing Matt Nagy, etch it in stone. And that's going to drive some fans nuts. I mean, context is everything. How, if they were to fail making the playoffs or fail in the first round of the playoffs, how they did is going to play into the emotions of George McCaskey and Ryan Pace. But these guys are kind of locked together and arm in arm brotherhood kind of crap. So I don't see them moving on unless the team really starts to lose out. And it's because the offense is last in the league in offense all the way up until the final game of the season. They're 32nd in passing yards and some other statistical categories. That's what it's going to come down to, making the playoffs or not, and where they rank offensively, which is where Matt Nagy hangs his hat on. Now, Shane, of course, got to have his Dodgers comment here in the chat. Johnny B, he was giving me some business on Twitter last night because his Dodgers cheated and beat, the Giants on a called third strike that shouldn't have been.
All right. Well, first of all, it's just one call. So, yeah, maybe it was a little iffy for sure. But that doesn't mean that the Dodgers aren't going to win that game. Everybody's, making a big deal out of it. What if he's, there was 2
Yeah,
outs.
I mean, right. And even if it's called a ball, he still has to get on base. Exactly. There still had to be a lot to happen there.
Exactly.
But I just like giving Shane shit. Now, the Dodgers beat the Cardinals. So, beggars can't be choosers here. I was happy when the Dodgers won, and then I was mad when they beat the Giants because I'm a KB guy. I'm rooting for Schwarbs, rooting for KB. Those are my guys.
Well, you know what I say. There's football, and then there's everything else.
Well, I know you and Phil, Phil Atoshin from Team Number Live, you guys are locked in step on that. But, normal people root for all sports. And so we got our eyes on baseball right now, too. So I'm rooting for the Red Sox because one of my worst nightmare at this point, fucking Shane. I'm rooting for the Red Sox at this point because Kyle Schwarber, obviously my love for Schwarbs, but my worst nightmare at this point would be Dodgers versus Astros. I never really had a problem with the Dodgers until I had to deal with Shane, but now I can't stand the Dodgers because of Shane and his fucking love for the Dodgers and Alabama. Dodgers win last night. The first thing Shane wants to do is tweet me. So now we have this stupid rivalry. I got to deal with this. So I hope they lose. So I can make fun of.
Weren't you all annoying with your tweets when the Cubs won?
Yeah, but I'm a Cub fan. And we beat the Dodgers, and I didn't know him at this point. And so now I'm trying to let him know now. And he's like, oh, that's all you have to live off of. But we beat the Dodgers in the NLCS. I was at Game 6 of the NLCS when the Cubs, ended the curse and beat Clayton Kershaw. That was one of the greatest moment I've ever had in my sporting life. So yeah, he's gonna hear it.
Well, let me tell you something, Braggs. As good as that sounds, you should try the Super Bowl, baby.
I'm gonna try it. When the Bears make it, I will be in the stands for it. I was in the stands for the World Series,
football, and everything else.
And I will be in the stands for the Super Bowl. A little more of a dice roll, if you will, to go to the Super Bowl because as you've learned here in the last 2 years, to make it to go to the Super Bowl and pay that big money. You got to bring home a dub to make it worth it, or else it's tough sledding. So, there is no rivalry between the Cubs and the Dodgers. The rivalry is between us, Shane.
Yeah.
The Cubs purposely went 20 games under 500 because we traded everyone for prospects. Now, I hope they bring back Chris Bryant and they got prospects for him. That'd be the ultimate move there, but I don't think the Cubs are going to do that. We'll see. I got no interest in guys like Carlos Correa, who talked about lifelong dream of playing for the Cubs. And that's what I mean, Johnny, as we transition off of football for a second. I want nothing to do with any Astros players, and I want nothing to do with the Astros being in the World Series because I can't stand them. Yes, they took down the White Sox. I don't really care. I'm not as rivalry with the White Sox either. If I'm not a rival of the White Sox, I could care less about the Dodgers, Shane. And if the Dodgers play the Astros in the World Series, I'm rooting for the Dodgers. So this is kind of Colonel Custard's last stand here. I need the Red Sox to win, so I have a rooting interest. And if not, I'm rooting against the Astros because I don't like cheaters.
I'm just against the Astros. That's where I'm going.
Yeah, yeah, everybody should be. I think the whole country besides Houston will be arm in arm rooting against the Astros. Bear Truth 9 says that I jinxed Johnny B's Chiefs last year going into the Super Bowl because going into those Super Bowl weeks leading up, I kind of mentioned about Tom Brady.
We all saw the game on Thursday, and we all know how Mr. Brady gets those favorable calls game after game after game. It's amazing how even when he's not on the field and his defense is on the field, how nothing is called, and then it's called. So we all know how it works. And yes, thanks, Greg. You jinxed me.
Well, it's Tom Brady. Yeah. And Bear Truth 9 is, warning Shane, and I agree here. Be very careful because I will jinx your team. And, Adam, our good friend, who's going to come in here in a couple weeks to hang out. We used to call it grimming, the Grim Reaper. And I will grim your team if I have to. So, was I rooting hard for the Giants last night? Yes, I was. Was I pissed off when they lost? A little bit. And then I got even more pissed off when Shane started tweeting at me. So, like I said, the rivalry is between me and Shane, not the Dodgers. I could care less about the Dodgers. The Dodgers helped us win the World Series. So I don't mind that rivalry because we beat you in the most important moment in franchise history for the Cubs. So that's our baseball talk here for tonight.
There you go.
Have your fun, Shane, in the NLCS, and maybe you'll win. The rain delay. Thank you. Hey, Shane, you ever want to come on and we can discuss the history of the Cubs and how they won the World Series, I'd be happy to do it. You know, enjoy, good luck, and maybe you'll win a real World Series as opposed to last year's fake one.
I knew you were going to say that.
Well, I mean, it's the truth, Johnny B. Those championships like LeBron, I don't count LeBron's. LeBron's trying to like add that to his resume. So I'm not letting the Dodgers. This has nothing to do with Shane. I would say the same thing, even if rivalry aside, for the Shane Greg thing. They weren't real. They played like 50 games. It doesn't count. So, you know, and I know Dodgers fans feel this way. I know LeBron in the back of his head feels this way, or Laker fans. It wasn't the same. So to win one this year would mean so much more. You know, the only sport was football that actually played like a normal standard of what you would play to where you could count it. So I'm sorry, you know, don't try to claim your COVID championship. Doesn't count here at Bragg's in the Stands. And I'm the one that makes the rules.
Win a real ring.
Win a real ring, Shane. But we appreciate Shane joining us here tonight. They had a good show here the other day with on Wednesday night with David Kaplan. And as he points out, as we move off of the Bears talk and Chicago sports talk, that he said, you know, this year is all about Fields' progression and not the record. So that'll be tough for some Bears fans to swallow if the record ends up falling under 500 and we lose games because it's not pretty offensively. But if Justin Fields continues to get better and better, as we've seen so far in the small sample size, and by the end of the year, he's looking Herbert-ish. I know that's the high bar, but, you know, or any kind of, you know, a Kyler Murray, you know, let's slow it down from Herbert and talk about how Kyler Murray looked at the end of last year, where he started to open things up. So, you know, maybe if that is the case and they are playing better offensively, then that will be what keeps Matt Nagy in the house. So everything's yet to be determined. We'll have to see. But definitely excited for this Sunday and the opportunity to take another step and beat our toughest rival and a quarterback that's, you know, really, really fucked with us for a long time in Aaron Rodgers. And, you know, he's going to be coming out that tunnel with that smug face. I was thinking about making a sign. You know, Johnny B, you're great with your signs, and I've made a few signs in my day going to games. I was thinking about making a sign that says, Rodgers looks like a hippie. I thought that would be pretty funny. What do you think?
I mean, that is funny, but it really has nothing to do with your.
Yeah, I know. But he does. He looks like a hippie. He was, you know, all clean cut there for Jeopardy. And now he looks like, you know, he fell off the reservation. So it's just funny. But I'm not going to make a sign because I'm going to be too busy tweeting, as I always do.
You could do 12, you're in Jeopardy, and have like the bear claw coming up.
Well, say that again?
You could do have his number, like 12, you're in Jeopardy.
Okay.
And have the bear claw, you know, like coming up.
Yeah.
And then hope they sack him 10 times.
Yeah, I could. Or, you know, we'll just see what Jackal thinks and have him make the sign because he's so clever, right, Shane? But I digress. So, you know, moving on to our next segment here coming up as Johnny B helps you make some money from your couch. But before we do that, we got to give our guys a shout out from FanBags, who been our loyal sponsors here from the very beginning, and got to do our readout and everything else. But I got to tell you, you know, we're winding down from board season, but these guys do a lot of great work, can make you any kind of custom set that you want. And you got to make sure you check them out because they're as good as it gets. So this Bears talk and a little baseball talk was brought to you by FanBags Cornhole, Chicago's official supplier of professional cornhole boards and bags. Choose from any of their officially licensed designs or have my boy Brian design a custom set using anything from a selfie to your company's logo. Visit www.fanbagscornhole.com and use the promo code BRAGS to get 10% off your entire order. That's www.fanbagscornhole.com and use the promo code BRAGS for 10% off. Step up your game with FanBags Cornhole. Bingo, bango.
Yeah, baby.
There we go. So there's our guys, FanBags. And, also our guys at the Collectors Cave. We got some big public signings here coming up. Aaron and Mike set up. They got Thomas Jones, November 7th. And I'll start pulling up the graphic here for this show, which I don't have on me quite yet. But if you go to www.collectorscave.com, you can find all sorts of sports memorabilia needs at your fingertips. And also, like I said, some big public signings here. They got a White Sox one coming up, which obviously we're not so much the White Sox swerve over here, but Jeff Blum is one of their big White Sox signings coming up. And then Thomas Jones, November 7th, a Sunday, Johnny B. So I don't know if you're going to be in Kansas City or not that week, but we're going to be doing a live show.
They should be arrested for crime because having that on a Sunday during the NFL season, you might as well just throw a wedding in there on that day too.
Yeah, Aaron, if you're watching, but it's going to be an NFL watch party, so they're going to have the games on and you'll be able to meet and greet with Thomas Jones. And we'll be doing our live show there. So we might have our first ever live guest appearance. You see behind my shoulder here, the Jim McMahon jersey, Johnny B and I's first ever live show was just over here at Catch 22. And Jim McMahon was doing the signing, but we couldn't get him to sit down because he was a busy man that day. But Thomas Jones, I think, might, because we're buttering him up a little bit.
Because he's cool.
Yeah, he's cool. And I'm giving him one of these bear the fuck down hoodies, which he's, a big fan of that phrase on Twitter. So we're going to hook him up with some Brags in the Stand swag, and maybe that'll butter him up enough to come on. And then we can ask his thoughts on Khalil Herbert, David Montgomery, and the Bears, and what he thinks of Justin Fields. And so keep on the lookout for that at Collectors Cave on Facebook, on Twitter, and at www.thecollectorscave.com. So that is moving on here. So we're going to start helping you guys make some money from your couch, as we always do in our world famous segment, Johnny B for 3.
Mitch Holtis, voice of the Chiefs here, and you're with Johnny B for 3. Touchdown, Kansas City.
Wow, how about that?
Johnny, do it with me.
How about it? All right, so I'm going to get off the screen now, and you're going to give him the countdown, Johnny. All right, so I'm on.
All right, this is for real now. That was the practice. Are you ready?
Here we go. Belt it out on 3. 1, 2, 3. Touchdown! Kansas City!
Woo!
See all of you at Arrowhead. Let's go.
All
Super
right,
Bowl
thanks,
56 in
Mitch.
Andy Reid's hometown of LA. We're going.
Let's go.
There it is. The Johnny B for 3. Moment of a lifetime here on Brags in the Stands with Mitch Holthus, world famous play-by-play man for the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, the voice, baby. Well, last week, man, it was one of my rougher weeks on the show. All of the picks were right there in the last couple of minutes of the game, and then Mahomes dropped a wet, slippery ball and all this other stuff. So we're at 50% win rate, which is very low for me, but not too bad. Some of you contacted me. I gave a bonus pick out, which was a parlay of 4 teams that paid $3.90, and it was a money lane parlay, and that did hit. So that was nice to you, those of you that got in on that, to kind of help with it. But let's get into it, because whenever I have an off week a little bit, I usually bounce back super strong. This past week was my first losing week of the season, a total for all my bets. So I'm ready to bounce back a little bit. And here we go with this week's version of Johnny B for 3. Number 1 pick of the week, Cowboys -2.5. It's going off at -130. Dak and the boys, they got a lot of weapons. Zeke's back. He's hungry. And the defense is playing much better than people thought. I like this game a lot, and I think it's going to be an easy cash, to be honest with you. I think this is the easiest money of the week, and I think the Cowboys continue to roll. I know there's a lot of Cowboys haters out there, but if it makes you the money, who cares if you like the team or not? Take that. Cowboys -2.5. My number 2 pick of the week, I'm going right back to it. Why not? He's cashed 4 out of 5 of these this year. That's 80%. So we're going to go with it. Patrick Mahomes over 2.5 touchdown passes this week at -125. He had it at the end of the game the other day. the ball was all wet and slippery. It was pouring, and they dropped a snap, and then that killed that bet. But I think he's going to bounce back. I'm predicting 4 touchdown passes this week. He might even have this in the first half as the Chiefs get back on track. And that's Mahomes, over 2.5 touchdown passes at -125. Your number 2, Johnny B, pick of the week. And then we're going to go number 3. You got to watch this line. It's the Rams. It's dropping, which I like. It's actually at -8.5 right now. I checked it before we came on. It could be down to 8. But the Giants are super beat up. I mean, they're beat up beyond belief. I think the whole team is on the injury report, including the quarterback. Barkley's not playing. Their 2 best wide receivers aren't playing. The Rams are rolling. I'm taking Aaron Donald. I'm taking the Rams. And like I said, you probably get this at -8.5 or -8 when it comes down to it. And I think this is going to be a 13-point game all day. I'm taking the Rams -8. 8.5 or 9, depending on what you get at your sports book at -105. And those are your 3 picks for Johnny B for 3, baby. Let's make some money. Let's go.
Making some money from your couch. That's what Johnny B does here.
Yeah.
Man of the people. Does a lot of great things. Helps the morale of the Kansas City Chiefs fans and everyone out there. Bear Truth 9 wants to know, what's the problem with KC here? They've come out the gates. They actually have a worse record than the Chicago Bears, and I don't think any of us would have predicted that after 5 games to start the year.
Let's start off by saying the Chicago Bears have played the Detroit Lions. The Kansas City Chiefs have not played the Detroit Lions. The Kansas City
you can only play who's on your schedule, but
exactly.
Go ahead. It's a fair point.
The Kansas City Chiefs have had the toughest schedule. There's been a couple things happening. We've been turning the ball over, maybe pressing a little bit because the defense hasn't been playing that great. But to be honest with you, those 2 things happening together are not good for any football team. With that being said, we're in every game. We got a bad call when we were making a comeback on Sunday night when they called that roughing the passer, where we'd have had the ball at the 50-yard line down by 11 with a ton of time left. And that's just kind of how it's been going, but I'm very confident in what's happening. I'm confident in, the Chiefs offense getting rolling again. And, Mahomes, I do believe he leads the league in touchdown passes. And I
got him on my fantasy team, so I greatly appreciate that. But do you think now that Clyde Edwards-Helaire is going on IR, they're going to turn to some backup running backs here, Jerick McKinnon and who's the other guy? Help me out here, Johnny B.
They're going with Williams.
Darrell Williams. Yeah,
and I actually like Darrell Williams. I think he brings an element of toughness to the game. Clyde, has had a couple good games. He cost us the win against Baltimore when he fumbled the ball, but he just hasn't looked maybe quite himself this year for whatever reason. He looks a little slow, in the holes a little bit at times. So we'll see. Maybe we'll get back to just slinging that ball around. We got Josh Gordon, with the playbook now fully in hand. And he looked good in those couple plays. He's a big target. He's got the speed. So, I am predicting a 10-game winning streak. I've announced it on Twitter, and it's going to start this week against the Washington football team, who they've got a lot of guys, including their offensive line right now, that are not playing this week. And their defense is just has looked as good as it has had last year. They do have the 4, D linemen that are rushing pretty solid, but with Chase Young and the boys, but that defense just has not looked that great compared to last year. So I'm predicting a 40-point game by Mahomes and the boys this week. So back on track.
Big Dollar Dave, we appreciate you joining us. Enjoy whatever game you just downloaded, but we appreciate you hanging out with us here at Brags in the Stands. Like I said, Monday night, David Kaplan coming on. Johnny B obviously will be here if he's available, and Trey Tunes should be here too as well to chop it up with our favorite guy. Our guys. I shouldn't say favorite guy from ESPN 1000 because we have many favorite guys at ESPN 1000, but one of our guys from ESPN 1000. And of course, Darren Utenek, CEO of Bernie's Book Bank, a good friend and a diehard Packer fan, but nobody's perfect, as we've said. Bear Truth 9 also wants to know, as you picks your brain a little bit here with the Chiefs, how do you feel the left tackle's doing here that they paid? Because, the offensive line was the issue as far as the Chiefs not winning the Super Bowl last year. Has he lived up to the billing and the price tag that you paid?
Well, we didn't really pay much for him. I mean, we paid draft capital. He's still on his rookie contract, so we did give up a 31st pick, our first pick in the first round, obviously, which was a late pick, making the Super Bowl. He's looked very good in the run game. he's had his moments where he's been solid in the pass game. He thinks he can get better, and I do so think he can get better too. But the rest of the line in the middle has looked really good. Joe Tooney, that we signed, All-Pro from the Patriots, has looked solid. Broke his hand on the first series last week in the game and played the whole thing, didn't even tell anybody. Now it's in a little cast, and he's still going to play. We drafted Creed Humphrey out of Oklahoma, and for center, he's a rookie. And right now, he's the #1 rated center in the entire NFL through 5 weeks, so that's looking good. And, of course, Trey Smith out of Tennessee, our right guard. He was a guy that was on a lot of people's draft board super, super high, had a little bit of a blood clot issue in college. A lot of people backed off him, and he has just absolutely been wrecking it. The guy on the right, Lucas Niang, has been a little bit of a project. He's given up a couple pressures. And I think he's been a little bit, in the learning process, but he's kind of a rookie too because he opted out last year. But we're really liking the development in the offensive line, especially in the middle. And I think those guys are only going to get better. And, and that's kind of what happens year to year is you got to kind of see what you got. You always have some new guys in place, and you got to get that chemistry. And I really do believe that offensive line is going to start really rolling.
Bear Turd 9 firing away questions here in the chat. Alluding to the Super Bowl hangover theory. And, I think the Bucks, take this one in front of Johnny. And Johnny, you can respond as well. The Bucks are playing some great football right now. I don't think they have a hangover. The Chiefs won the Super Bowl 2 years ago, and then we're back in the Super Bowl the next year. So, to me, Super Bowl hangovers can happen for teams that are lesser talented that maybe make it on a miracle and a whim. But when you have an ultimately talented team like the Chiefs or the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have, I think Super Bowl hangovers go out the window because at the end of the day, talent wins week to week here in the NFL.
Well, as I said, we have the quarterback that leads the NFL in touchdown passes, so I don't know how much of a hangover that is.
Sure.
And he'll get it right.
You guys are playing tough opponents.
Yeah, he'll get it right with the interceptions. We played Cleveland. We played at Baltimore. We played Buffalo. We played the Chargers. We played at Philadelphia. You show me a schedule that's tougher than that out of the first 5 weeks, I would like to see it. All those teams.
In Buffalo, man, they're taking the ladder steps. You talk about ladder steps for Justin Fields. Look at what Josh Allen has become. He threw some dime balls against the Chiefs. And they were on a mission to beat you guys that night.
Yeah.
Because they're trying to live up to what they're trying to get accomplished. The Browns were also in that category, but maybe their quarterback talent isn't as high. Yeah. So they fell just short of beating the Chiefs, but Josh Allen and the Bills certainly seem to be on a mission right now. So the AFC is tough.
If they're not, then they have to look in the mirror because we spanked them twice last year. We spanked them in their building during the regular season, and they came into the AFC Championship, and they got spanked again. So we knew they would be hungry, and, it didn't work out.
That's what football is all about.
They got the W, but Julian Edelman said today, someone asked him about the Chiefs today in some kind of podcast or something, and he said, "Can I tell you how many times I was on a team that was 2-3 and we went on to win the Super Bowl with the Patriots?" He goes, nobody cares deep down if you're a good team, what people think the professionals in September. What are you looking like in December when you're going into the playoffs? So sure. That's what we're worried about. We played a tough stretch of the schedule. It gets a little bit easier, and I'm feeling confident as I always am, and I'm expecting a nice winning streak to start this week.
Well, it's tough when the hunter becomes the hunted, and then you're playing teams every week, and it's their Super Bowl against you
every week, bro.
It makes it much more difficult mentality wise to get through that, especially when you've gone to Super Bowl 2 years in a row. That's a long journey each year, and you need a lot of things to go your way. Sometimes it's a law of averages. Those bounces don't go your way. Everything kind of comes back to the fold. Everything evens itself out in that regard. So but the Chiefs are always going to be right there. Yeah. There's no question about that. If they have to play the Bills again in the playoffs, the Bills are going to be the ones with their buttholes puckered up because you have to play a perfect game to beat the Chiefs. It's just like what the Bears have to do on a lesser level with the Packers to beat them. Even if the Bears were to beat the Packers this week and again in Green Bay later this year, if they played them in the playoffs, the pressure would be on the Bears because, at the end of the day, Aaron Rodgers is sitting over there. And so that is the same that pertains for the Kansas City Chiefs. And, when you try to slay that dragon, it's no easy task. So we'll see
when
what
these
happens.
Teams play us, Greg. When these teams play us, if they're at the 40-yard line or more, they go for every fourth down. Like I have never seen us have to defend so many fourth downs. It started last year quite a bit during the regular season, but this year in the first 5 games, I mean, the amount of fourth downs that teams are going for at midfield and even, at the 40-yard line with 60 yards to go, it's like crazy. It's like, it's coming. That the Chiefs, because they don't want to give Mahomes the ball, they've got to defend 4 downs for, basically 60 to 65% of the field. And it's tough. I mean, it's not a good feeling, though. You make a good stop on 3rd down, and then they're going for it on 4th down almost every time.
Well, and it's easier to be that free with your play calling and aggressiveness in the regular season. Then when the playoffs come around, and it's win or go home, and the Chiefs are sitting there with the Super Bowl championship in their pocket, they can play a little more free and easier than a team that's still trying to, climb that mountaintop. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. But, Bear Truth 9 says he's a firm believer of Super Bowl hangovers for the losers. So we'll have to see. But at the end of the day, the Chiefs are going to be right there in the playoffs. I'll be shocked if they're not, even though right now they sit under 500. But he's got, so in the Johnny B for 3, to go back over it for a second, he's got Mahomes, 2.5 touchdowns, taking the over as per usual. That seems to be pretty easy money most weeks. And, this one, when you mentioned the Cowboys at 2.5, I have to agree with you. Ezekiel Elliott is back. I have him, at the beginning of the season, I said, kick me directly square in the nuts for taking Ezekiel Elliott over Tyreek Hill. But to my surprise, Ezekiel Elliott's been one of the best running backs in football. And maybe he got a little kick in the ass, with a backup running back.
Maybe.
It's starting to, climb up to take his job. And that got him, I think he looked in better shape overall if you watched Hard Knocks and how he came out to start the year. But Tony Pollard certainly, I think, lit a fire under him a little bit. And now Ezekiel Elliott is back. And Dallas looks like they're primed to make a Super Bowl run this year.
Dallas, I think, is for real. I've not been one of these necessarily Cowboy haters like a lot of America is necessarily, but you got to respect when you see things that you like on the football field. And they do have a ton of weapons. Dak has obviously proven that he's back from the injury and playing well.
Very
impressive.
impressive.
Like him. He seems to be very poised and very calm.
He looks even better than he did prior to the injury.
Yeah, almost like he's like freed, once he got through that first game and took a couple hits, and he's very poised and looking very, set on taking this team deep. But for me, it's the defense. The defense is getting turnovers, and they look very much improved, surprisingly. This wasn't a very good defense last year, but this year, they've gotten the ball, they've got some takeaways, and if Dak, the way he's playing in that offense, and like you said, Zeke and all them, if they can even be a middle-of-the-road defense, this is going to be a tough team to beat.
100%. So, again, we got Cowboys -2.5, Mahomes over 2.5 touchdowns, and the Rams -9 here.
Yeah, that one's shifting a little bit. Like I said, you might be able to even get it at anywhere from -8 to -9, which could be a big difference. But I really think this is a 13-point game, to be honest with you.
So those are Johnny B's for 3s and help you make some money from yo couch. But yeah, very excited for another Sunday of NFL games. Of course, Bears Packers on the forefront of our minds here in Chicago. But a lot of good games all around to keep an eye on, fantasy and betting otherwise. So, but I think that about wraps things up for tonight's show. We haven't given out any participation trophies, but want to give out participation trophies to everybody in the chat that hung out for the entire show. You all get a participation trophy. Bear Truth 9, you get a participation trophy. Will doesn't get one because he booked. But we'll give one to Big Dollar Dave, even though he just jetted just a few moments ago. I mean, to go this long with Bragsy and Johnny B, we try to keep it entertaining, but we appreciate those of you that have hung out and everybody that tunes in, even if you're tuning in later to our show. Chubbs is going to kick my ass because I didn't schedule the show or announce it. And so
he's not down with you not scheduling the show, man.
Well, and then he wasn't here tonight. So, I'm sure he's going to be none too pleased. He'll be I'm sure I'll be expecting a DM yelling at me, unless he's busy. He's got a family and things like that. So we understand. But, StreamYard was giving us little issues, logging in. And me, I was trying to create the link. It was giving me issues. I had to do it off the computer because it wasn't letting me do it off my phone. Johnny B couldn't log in. So, we were a little concerned about how it was going to even get off the tracks. But, we're sorry. You got to keep up with us, Bertrand. Now, we do it a little different here. We don't, we kind of just go when we can. We're both busy men. I'm laying bricks in the rain. Johnny B's, tennis professional and racing his ducks and going to Kansas City Chiefs games every other week. I'm going to Bears games every other week. We got Purdue coming up here. I saw people in the chat earlier. I don't know if it's around here, but I saw people in the chat. Listen, there's one thing I'm not going to allow in this chat, and that is any kind of Purdue slander, like Carmen Carcino. I don't know if he's in the chat anymore, but we will not allow Purdue slander in this chat. We've got Purdue basketball coming up in just a few weeks. Tomorrow, Brags in the Stands is going to be at Mackey Arena for Fan Day. They're showing the Purdue men's basketball team scrimmage around 12 o'clock. And so it'll be my first time laying my eyes on this very hyped Purdue basketball team that could easily be top 5 in the country. And I'm season ticket holder. We all know the story here at Brags and Stands, good friends with one of the star players of Purdue basketball, Sasha Stefanovic, his senior year. So I'll be going to as many games as I possibly can. So, this is what we do here at Brags and Stands. We got football season. I know Johnny B is football first and foremost, but we're going to be doing a lot of Purdue basketball coverage along with our football coverage. Those will be separate shows. So we'll have our Bears shows and we'll have our Purdue basketball shows, have some different guest hosts on for those, and try to shake it up. But we only do as much as we can. I got a 3-year-old at home. She's getting older, more stuff to do with her.
No excuses, Brags.
Now, no excuses, play like a champion. But that's the beauty of what we do here at Brags in the Stands. We try to make it work for our schedules, and we hope that you guys can keep up with us, keep an eye out for our shows, because we certainly appreciate those of you that try to tune in live. It makes our shows a lot more fun. I don't know what Kyle Lilly's commenting here with. Is that a skate?
A boot?
Or is that a boot? Is he booting me in the ass, or is he skating?
I think that's a boot.
Kyle Lilly, he's calling me chicken now. So we got some name calling going on here. So, that's okay. We don't know what the boot is. Explain the boot, Kyle, before we go, because we're both very interested in this.
Maybe he wants to give you the boot.
Boot the guy saying F Purdue. Now, Carmen Carcino's a great dude, so we're not going to boot him, but we're going to give him a stern talking to. But, you can try to slander Purdue. Chubbs will be doing it here in the chat this year, but it's going to be tough because they're going to be one of the best teams in the country. They've only been top 5, top 3 in the nation. I think they've only had been number 2 in the nation 3 other times in their history of their basketball program. They've never been number 1 in the nation. They haven't been to a Final Four since 1980. And these are all things that 1980, they fell just short of it a few years ago when Sasha was a sophomore with Carson Edwards and Ryan Klein going off. Ryan Klein, a good friend of the show. They fell just short of it to Virginia, the eventual national champions. They probably would have won the whole damn thing that year if not for Virginia's theatrics. Heartbreaking loss for Purdue basketball fans. So we'll see if they can right those wrongs this year with a loaded Purdue basketball. I'm so excited for that season. Probably even more so than what's going on with the Bears. I have to be honest. The Bulls, I'm just, it's the final year. I got to be honest. I mean, it may be slander or sacrilege to say here on the show to those that are,
I might have to step away here.
That are, I get it. I love my Chicago Bears. I want them to win a Super Bowl. Maybe this year isn't the year. Maybe it is. Maybe they get lucky and have a miracle season. We'll see. But this is it. Sasha's last year, senior year. Purdue's going, has a chance to be a top 5 team in the country. So I am fully locked in and loaded for Purdue basketball. Going to Connecticut around November 20th to see Purdue take on North Carolina. I'm going to visit my guy, Phil Atoshin. He lives out in Connecticut. So Going to drive to Michigan when they play at Michigan and hang out with Adam for that night, maybe get some courtside seats. So we got some big plans here for Purdue basketball this year. And that's right. I'm at every game, Bear Truth 9. Johnny B's at every game because we are the fans in the stands.
Be in Tennessee next week.
He'll be in Tennessee next week, not just the home games, go to the road games too. That's what Brags in the stands is all about. That's what Johnny B in the stands is all about. That's what the fans in the stands are all about. We try to represent the fans in the stands with a lot of pride. Before we go, Johnny B, I would like to get your thoughts on a little. I didn't pull out the pictures or the video because I know that you represent Kansas City Chiefs Kingdom with a lot of pride and a lot of class and grace and a lot of hype. You're a hype man. But I did want to get your thoughts on this story that's been circulating amongst Chiefs Kingdom
know what it is,
with X Factor. I've never heard of this guy. And there was a fight in the stands. It went a little viral. This guy gets knocked out in the stands. It looked like, was that in your end zone? Because the seats were in the end zone.
Yeah, it's very close to my section. It's one section over to my right.
Same end zone.
Same end zone, yeah.
So this guy gets knocked out. I just think it's a random fight at a game. And it turns out this fan, and there's a lot of very popular or famous fans of Kansas City Chiefs Kingdom, that dress up or do different things. You have the signs. You've painted your beard. You've done different things. There's guys that dress up as a wolf. You're friends with that guy.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different fans, a lot of different characters that I can't wait to get out there one year and meet some of these people because it just seems like a great fan base that you're a part of. But this X Factor guy, now I'm reading more into this story, and he gets knocked out. And it seems like he's had a lot of controversy that's surrounded him for years. And it sounds like a lot of while he, Bear Man represents the Bears with class. People come up to him, take pictures with him. He's not fighting people. He's not creating controversy. He's the most soft-spoken, warm-hearted person you will ever meet, and a great ambassador of the Chicago Bears and their fan base. Now, this X Factor, he's kind of tried to insert himself over the years. Says he's gone for over 30 years. And sounds like a lot of controversy surrounding this guy. It sounds like a bad character who now posted on Twitter that he has been banned from Kansas City Chiefs games. I just want to get your thoughts on this X Factor. It's a little weird. His ensemble is a cheesehead that says X Factor. Cheesehead's from the Packers.
Well, it's painted, so it's not a cheesehead. But yeah, basically the guy, I don't know him. I've seen him around. The word on the street is that, he was a very passionate fan, and he's been doing it a long time. And I've seen him, and he started to maybe get in trouble a little bit, maybe have some problem with different addictions or whatever. And he got in a little trouble, here or there.
Allegedly,
with the law. I guess he was warned by the Chiefs, back in 5 or so years ago that if there was another instance that he would be kicked out. So obviously he had this fight, he's obviously easy to spot. And he had this altercation at Arrowhead. I didn't see it, actually, which was, I don't know if it didn't happen in our seats or if I just didn't see it because it was so packed. But yeah, he had this altercation, and now, word on the street is, according to him, and the letter from the Chiefs was posted online today that he is banned from Arrowhead and any facility or anything that is associated with the Kansas City Chiefs, whether that's a concert, the parking lots, a 5K run at the park down the street, anything involving the Kansas City Chiefs, he's now banned. So I don't know the guy personally. I know he gets a lot of static online from a lot of people. I try to stay out of other people's business. That's Johnny B style.
Sure.
And, but yeah, the rumor on the street is this guy just took it too far with some of his personal stuff, and he's out.
He's out, and he got knocked out too by an old man who wasn't having it. And who knows the backstory? Apparently, there was a backstory between the two, which we don't need to necessarily get into here. But I definitely wanted to get your thoughts on it because it did look like it was in your end zone. You have end zone seats, and
that's a good eye by you. It was, his seats are one section over, not too far from mine.
He got clocked too. One strike. The video's real quick, and he got clocked, and down he went. So, that's, the thing, and we saw with the White Sox playoffs, White Sox Dave from Barstool interviewed, they might have interviewed this X Factor. That's kind of how I came across it. But we saw White Sox Dave from Barstool harassing John Cusack as he came into the White Sox game, questioning his fanhood because he's bandwagon. He'll go to Cubs games when they're hot, and then he goes to White Sox games when they're hot. And White Sox Dave took exception to that and how he's always trying to get good seats, using his celebrity status to get good seats and things of that nature. So White Sox Dave tried to challenge him about being at the White Sox games, and John Cusack started to give him the business about his knowledge of old school White Sox players, because he grew up a Chicago baseball fan. He was in White Sox movie, about the White Sox scandal, the Black Sox. And so it's interesting to see different fans, me and Johnny B try to carry ourselves, a certain way when we go to games and the way we interact with other fans in the stands. And, you saw at the beginning of this show with my video of harassing a Packer fan. I always try to keep it light, keep it fun. I've had some fans tell me, hey, you better be careful doing that stuff, running up on people, you're going to get knocked out, and I'd like to think that I've always kept things light. I pick fans that I can tell aren't going to create a stir. Those fans that are ready to fight, that have their chests out, are easily identifiable. The movie's called Eight Men Out. Beck and John's helping me out here in the chat. You keep your White Sox movies. I'll watch Rookie of the Year with my guy Henry Rowan-Gardner. But yes, 8 Men Out is the movie John Cusack was in. But I thought White Sox Dave had the right idea.
You could have just said thank you for the guy giving you the movie title. You didn't have to do a whole speech about some kid that nobody would recognize even if he went to.
Oh, bologna and sandwiches. Henry Rowan-Gardner's a legend.
I don't even know who that is. I mean, I know, but I don't know.
Rookie of the Year.
No, I know, but still, you could just say, "Hey, thanks for throwing me the information."
No. But when it comes to White Sox Dave and how he came up on John Cusack, I found that interesting because I do go up on fans and mess with them a little, but it's your delivery. And I thought, White Sox Dave's delivery was a little tense and a little more rigid and edgy. And I don't know if he was intending on that to start.
No, he wanted it that way. I could tell.
Yeah, but then it got awkward even for him, and so I just felt like his delivery wasn't correct. And John Cusack came back at him, and then it turns, and then he kind of cowered by the end of the argument between the two.
Maybe
John Cusack's kind of schooling him.
Yeah, maybe he wasn't expecting that comeback, from a celebrity like that. Maybe he wasn't prepared.
Well, he tried to address it, and he's kind of been taking the ball and run with it now that it's become a national story. The way he came up on John Cusack, White Sox Dave, but to me, it could have ended. It wasn't a great look because he did get schooled, and then at the end of it, he's like, you could tell he was flustered, and so you got to come correct if you're going to come to a fan and challenge them. And I always try to keep it light with the way I come at fans. I'm going to mess with you, but I'm not going to try to make it a point of contention. I'm always going to try to be friendly, and I might even buy you a drink after the video. And I always ask for permission to any fan that I mess with, including the couple that you saw at the beginning of our show, the Packers fans. I always ask if I can circulate. I explain what I do and after said video. And most people are always like, yeah, have fun. And some of them follow me back and we become friendly from that. But, it's all about, doing right by people.
It's all about people, whether they're a fan of a rival team or whatever. It's still, like you said earlier in the show, no one can tell you how you're going to fan or fandom. Sure. And we're all liking the same thing. We just don't like the same teams, And
sure. And
when it comes down to it and that Sunday's over and you go back to work on Monday and do your business and whatever it is you do, we're all doing the same thing. We're working for the weekend and getting ready for the next game. So.
That's right. And, last year, no fans were allowed in the stands, so to now say, don't be coming here. I agree with White Sox Dave in the fact that you should just pick one side. You shouldn't be a Cub fan and a Sox fan. Right. But those that cheer for both, I'm not going to rail on them too hard. Maybe I used to back in my younger days when I was more fired up. I'm a little. I've softened as I've gotten
Are you
older.
soft, bro?
I've softened as I've gotten older. But I get what his point was. His delivery could have been a little better. I agree. He probably meant it to be a more of an edgy conversation. But then he got schooled, and he had to eat that L that John Cusack handed him. So it was an interesting little thing. I'm more a fan of the stands moment. I should have pulled that video just to give more context to it, but everybody's seen it at this point. Beck and John says he's not even a Sox fan. He just knows his baseball movies. Little Big League. I have to admit, which one am I going to rank between Little Big League and Rookie of the Year? I'm a Cub fan, so it's hard for me to put Little Big League ahead of it. But, I can go along with that. Little Big League is one of my favorite baseball movies ever. It's got Ken Griffey Jr. in it when he was at the peak of Ken Griffey Jr.-ness. Randy Johnson's in it. The night nurses from Jersey scene where the manager, the young kid for the Twins, he's watching late night movies and, falling asleep in the dugout. Great, all-time great baseball movie, Little Big League. So I agree with you there, Beck and John, who I'm assuming is John here, getting at us here in the chat. So, that's what it is. Kyle Lilly, who is my good friend here, for those that don't realize. Yes, I harass Kyle religiously because one day he'll be wearing a White Sox jersey, and the next day he's wearing a Cubs jersey. And Kyle is close enough friend where I try. It's like, like Jenny. She was a White Sox fan when we first started. What?
She still is. She just
no, she isn't.
She's not.
No, there's a rule. You get married. No. She's a Cub fan.
You think you make the rules?
I make the rules.
Okay.
And she's a Cub fan now. And Kyle falls under this category because we're basically married too. So Kyle is no longer allowed. He's a Cub fan first with stupid White Sox jerseys. He's just a jersey wearer and a hat wearer. So those don't even count. He's a Cub fan. He has no rights here. She is not a Sox fan, Kyle.
No, she is.
No, she isn't.
Yeah, once you're a fan,
period.
You
this is not debatable here.
You don't change. You just tell that person so they leave you alone. She is still a Sox fan deep down, promise you.
All right. So, Bear Truth 9, we appreciate you joining us here tonight. Thank you for joining us for the show. Diving in with your questions. Always enhances the show when people are interactive in the chat, even if I'm not agreeing with you like I am with Kyle Lilly right now. So, I think that wraps things up for tonight. We've hit the 2-hour mark here for tonight's show. I was just texted by one of my guys here that entered in the contest for Bossman 814 was asking me when the drawing is. The drawing that we've been promoting for over a month here on Brags in the Stands. Our guys from the Collector's Cave donated 3 jerseys that you had an opportunity to win: the signed Dan Hampton jersey, a signed Mike Ditka jersey, and a signed Jimbo Cover jersey. And all you had to do was donate a minimum of $5 to the Bernie's Book Bank, walk that we did, the Unity Walk, 25 miles. And I was going to have these guys on, and I wanted to announce the winners when they were on. And we announced the giveaway like a week before the walk. So I wanted to be able to give the giveaway time to raise as much money as we could. And Boss Man had just donated yesterday. So that's one more donation added to the lot. And at the end of the day, this is about raising money for, kids, that are underprivileged in the Chicagoland area, providing them with books and resources to help provide a better education for them. And you can see here at the bottom of the screen, you still have an opportunity to donate and have a chance to win one of these 3 jerseys. 3 winners will be announced Monday night when we bring on our guys, Darren Utenek from Bernie's Book Bank, the CEO of Bernie's Book Bank, who just passed 3 million books given away here in the Chicagoland area and nationwide. And then, of course, our guy David Kaplan from ESPN 1000 is also going to join us. So all you have to do is donate and then send me a screenshot of your donation. There's an original tweet. If you find it on my timeline, you can comment on it. But if you just send it to me personally, I'll add you to the list, because anybody that's willing to donate to this cause, you'll be added to it. And if it's in somewhere where you found it here, we appreciate that. And we're going to announce the winners once and for all Monday night when our guys Darren Utenek and David Kaplan join us. So we appreciate everybody's support.
Those are some nice jerseys too.
Yes.
They're going to be 3 happy people.
And Steph Froyland here in the chat. Good stuff from the Brags and the team. Our guy Johnny B is my team. And we appreciate you joining us, Steph. And you have a great weekend as well. Bear down, big game on Sunday. And I will be there. I will be in the stands. I'll be at the tailgate lot with my guys from the Tape Never Lies Network. They're doing a live post-game show, which I will be a part of in South Lot. So we'll see how that goes, because I'm very interested to see if this is going to be organized well, because Phil's being very courageous in his aspirations for a post-game show in the South Lot. I don't think this has ever been done before. And, we're helping. I'm trying to help out as much as I can. He's got a whole village of people helping out for this thing, and I'm doing my small part to try to help out. And then, of course, I'll be in the stands for Bears-Packers, capturing footage and great fan moments and everything else that can fall underneath my lens. So bear down, Bear Truth 9. And, Beck and John's also throwing in his favorite baseball movies, Joe Mantegna, called Comrades of Summer. So we're going to have to do our movie talk another night here, Beck and John. But we've had a nice, healthy conversation of football, baseball, and everything in between. So participation trophies for everybody in the chat once again. Johnny B, why don't you give us your final words, as you always do, in your perfect Johnny B way?
All righty. Time to make some money, baby. The weekend's here. Whether you're rocking that college football, betting on these baseball games, you got hockey starting, basketball next week, college basketball soon after that. What a time to be alive, baby. And remember, money won is far sweeter than money earned. Woo! Let's make that money, baby. Let's go.
Making that money from the stands or in your couch or on your couch, not in it. And whichever you choose, but make sure you follow Johnny B's lead and you can make some good money in your pocket. So,
all right.
Kyle Lilly, participation trophies, we're definitely getting soft. Hey, that's what Will gives out. He gives out participation trophies. So you get one too, Kyle. Thank you for participating in the Brags in the Stand show, as everyone always does. And we will see you again. No post-game show Sunday after the game. We're going to wait to break down the games Monday night, again, with Darren Utenek from Birdie's Book Bank, diehard Packer fan, and David Kaplan of ESPN 1000 and NBC Sports Chicago, our good friend and one of the best guys in Chicago sports media, a legend in that of itself. So that wraps things up for tonight. For my guy, Johnny B, I am Gregory Braggs Jr., and this is Brags in the Stands. And always, always bear down. Green Bay sucks.
Bear down, Chicago Bears. Every play clear the way to victory. Bear down, Chicago Bears. Put up a fight with the mind so fearlessly. We'll never forget the way you drilled